Hi everyone, my name is Miss Pariseau and I will be your Math 8 Advanced teacher for this school year. Alright, so a little bit about me. There I am, and there is my wonderful husband Peter and our two beautiful girls, Julia, who will be 7 in September, and Natalie, who just turned 2 in July. So I'm originally from Maryland. That's where I spent most of my time growing up, but I've actually lived in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Syria. And then after college, I was in New York City and Boston. And then after Boston, I actually found myself back in Egypt, and that's where I met my husband. So I have been teaching for 14 years, and 7 of those years have been here at Webbridge Middle. I originally went to school to be a graphic designer, but I took a position as a substitute teacher, kind of a teacher's assistant, and I fell in love, so I went back for my certification and my master's, and now I'm actually working on my high school certification, and I love what I do. It's a favorite thing of mine to do. I love teaching others about math and learning new things from students themselves. So what is our class going to look like? It's a little bit different, obviously, this year, but I feel like for me, the only real difference is that we're going to be virtual on the computer instead of, in person. I typically use OneNote. While I don't recommend it, not recommend, but I don't require students to write in OneNote, I still use it and set it up for students. So that way it's really just a way to not lose your worksheets. So that's going to be the same for me. I'm going to show you some options about how you can show your work just on paper and post it to me and share it with me if you don't want to write on Teams. I know, because for me, I don't even like writing on my screen because you have to hold your pen up that way and it's awkward. So we will talk all about those different strategies. But OneNote and Teams are going to be your go-to places. And parents, if you want to be able to see that, your student needs to provide you with their login information and their password. So write that down, make sure you're able to check it out. So some supplies that you're going to need for remote learning. Obviously, you need your device. And then for me, like I was just saying, is that if you don't like writing in OneNote, especially with math is not something that's easy to type. Like, they have the equation tools and all that, but it's time consuming, not gonna lie. I'd rather just write it out. So I would recommend getting a spiral bound notebook or a composition notebook. And I actually prefer the graph paper. And the reason I prefer the graph paper is because if we need to, when we get into more of a geometry unit, we need to draw shapes, or we need to draw a coordinate plane or angles, all those grid lines are there for us, and just helps us to draw a little bit more accurately without a ruler than in just a lined notebook. So, again, if we needed to draw graphs, we can have the graphs there with the notes off to the side, all nice and neat. So that's my recommendation. You don't have to. You could get a binder, you get loose leaf paper. The other thing, and I'll be talking about this in the class, is that I would just recommend that if you're using something other than the documents directly in OneNote and writing on those, that you just date it and put the title of where it is in OneNote, so that way you can refer back to it. Something else that I think would be handy to have at home is a whiteboard and dry erase marker. I use these a lot in class. I'm looking into digital ones as well, but we can go old school. And if you don't want to buy a whole whiteboard, you can just get a pack of these page protectors, slip a sheet of paper in there. It can be graph paper on one side and maybe some plain paper on the other. And then during class, if we're having a warm up, or I say, hey, you know what, try this problem really quick. Like maybe we're doing review. You can just go ahead and write down the problem, something like that, and show all your work with a dry erase board. And I can be like, hey, hold your boards up. Let me check. See your camera with them. The other thing is, you don't need to spend money on eraser. I bought a pack of socks that we use, and that way we can wash them. It's easier. I find they last better than an actual dry erase marker. So those are some good tools to have. The other thing is, these are the calculators we tend to use when we are in class. There are some units where we don't use a calculator. We don't allow them. But for the most part, you have access to a calculator. And while this is the model we use in class, and that's why we recommend that particular model, you don't have to get this one. The reason, if you get the model, at least we'll be in sync about how to give you and tell you all about the different functions. We really need to be able to do squares and square roots, cubes and cube roots, and having the pi key on there. So I think most scientific calculators have those functions on there. However, the TI-30XS is the model we use in class, and you will see in my presentations that I'm using. Okay? All right, so what is our year going to look like? If you've had siblings take Math 8 before, it actually is going to look a little bit different this year. We've modified how the topics are going to kind of flow to make sure that we're all being consistent with that virtual learning aspect. So semester 1 topics you can see there are on the left, and semester 2 on the right. We're going to be starting with rational and irrational numbers, squares, cubes, and roots for our unit 1. Everything else, each bullet point for the most part, is its own unit. We tried to make it nice and small for y'all. Right? A big thing for this year is going to be the progress monitoring. Because our grades are pretty much on assessments, we want to make sure that we're checking in frequently with you to see that you are understanding the material and you are finding success with it. And so the ways that we're going to do that are with iExcel, some quick checks, and that could be used with Microsoft Forms. It could be on Teams. It could be with Illuminate. Or there may be times in class that we just don't have enough time to do all of the problems. And I might say, hey, can you finish up these 3 problems for homework? Take a picture of your work and send it to me. And this is all just, again, it's a progress monitoring grade. How well are you understanding the material? So that way, when you look at it in Infinite Campus, if you see that you're getting below a 70 or even below an 80 on your progress monitoring, that kind of shows, and that would be my red flag to say, hey, I need to reach out to you and your parents to make sure that you are understanding the material, and if we need to do any help sessions. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Okay. All right. So there's my contact information, my email address. But honestly, if you don't have a specific question, you're just curious on where to find information, go to Microsoft Teams. That's really where everything will be. I like to, when we did Edmodo, when I had my own website last year, every day at the end of the day, I would post something about what we did in class, kind of like a quick summary, like here's what we covered in OneNote, here's kind of just a reminder about what your assignments are for this week. So everything is going to be there, and there'll also be a place for you to ask questions there. You're going to want to make sure that you're checking the assignments on a regular basis, just to make sure you're getting them turned in. And also your OneNote will be there as well. So it's all like a nice one-stop shop for us. It'll be a little bit of a learning curve, I'm sure, for some of us, but we will figure it out together. And I am looking forward to seeing and meeting everyone in the next week. So until then, enjoy the last few days of summer, and I'll see you soon. Bye.